The ISO with myself, your host, Dan Dickau on the Gonzaga Nation Media Network rolls on with our tour of West Coast Conference coaches, where we catch up with them after they've had a chance to take a deep breath, relook at their rosters, kind of put together their focus for the upcoming season. Today's guest from LMU, head coach Stan Johnson. Coach, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, give us something that you focus on when the season is over. What are maybe the two or three big takeaways that you want to really look at for your team and your program to improve upon for the upcoming season?
Well, I mean, like everybody else, the number one thing is recruiting, and the way the portal works now, I mean, it's really, it's really lengthened your season. In basketball, there's really no season, but now, I mean, that's really true. I mean, we had a stretch there where I think it was 7 straight weeks, if not more, of official visits. So the last 2 weekends have been the first 2 weekends I've had off really since the season. And obviously that's important. You got to have the right players to improve. That's a big component of it. And the second thing we do here, I go through everybody, all our kids, each player, and we come up with what I call a DOC, defense, offense, culture, game plan. 3 things in those areas that each guy has to improve on. Defensively, offensively, culture standpoint. Then there's an academic weight room part. So I just got done with that last week, and then I started the DOC for our team. 3 things we got to get better at defensively, offensively. I just took a break from that to talk to you. So that's what I do is, you got to get the right guys, and then you got to break down the things that you've done, and what can we change, what can we add, what can we do better, and why didn't we do those things better? So that's kind of my process.
So 7 straight weeks of recruits on campus. I know Coach Few likes to get away and fish. We had Leonard Perry Jr. at Pacific on a few weeks back. I asked him a similar question I'm about to ask you, and he said music festivals with his family. When you get a chance to get away and get your mind outside of basketball, what do you like to do? What brings you kind of relaxation?
Well, I need to learn how to get away. That's the first thing. But for me, it's hanging with the fam. We'll take some trips, some family trips, and it's mostly spending time with my family. During the year, you don't get the chance. I have kids that are growing. I miss a lot of my son's basketball games, my daughter's dance competitions, and things like that. So having a chance to see my little guy play flag football, having a chance to see my middle kid play basketball, go to my daughter's competition, go to their practices, and just being present for me is the biggest thing, being around them and trying to put some stuff back in the emotional piggy bank for my entire family is important. This year we're going to take our team to Greece and Italy in August. So we're going to take all the families and all that. So that'll be a great getaway for everybody, and hopefully a way to recharge and learn some new things as well.
So for our listeners that don't understand or know what the difference between an official visit and an unofficial visit is, can you kind of share with us a little bit about what LMU and the coaching staff does with prospective student athletes when they're on campus in those 2 settings?
Yeah, well, we've had to learn a lot about it because, my first 2 years, this is the first time we've been able to have official visits and to really recruit how we want to recruit. So, the biggest difference between an unofficial and an official is, official visit, we can pay for everything. We can fly the family in, dinners and, all that is covered by the school. Unofficial visit, the prospect and the family come up alone, and usually they'll do that. That's probably a 1 day, a few hours deal. Where an official visit, most of the time, it's in a 48-hour window. Where we entertain them and try to educate them on who we are. So for us, it's what we're trying to build, trying to introduce them to some of the major people on campus, whether it's the president, the AD, obviously getting a great understanding of what a degree from Loyola Marymount would mean, And then from a basketball standpoint, having them really get to know our guys. I think the more you can get recruits around your players, the one, Dan, you played. The one thing I always say to parents and players don't lie. Like if you want to know about a coach or you want to know about a program, just spend time with the kids. They're going to tell you, So for me, it's big for them to get that time with our guys so they understand what they're getting into.
You mentioned you're taking your program on a overseas trip, Greece and Italy. I think that's awesome. I don't think enough college teams take advantage of that. I know they haven't been able to with COVID the last few summers, but how did that come about? Is that something you've been a part with of teams when you were an assistant, or when you took over a program, you wanted to do one of those on your own? And then who do you play when you're over there?
Yeah, both of those. I've been very fortunate. When I was at Drake as an assistant, we went to Australia. When I was at Arizona State, we went to China, Marquette. We went to Italy 1 year, and then at Marquette we went to Paris and Spain. So those things are so beneficial. There's a lot of times a lot of these kids, they don't have an opportunity outside of college. That may be the last time they get a chance to see the world, or is a chance to see different cultures, and it's very educational that way. And also it gives you a great perspective of what you have. So I think there's so many things involved with that, and then a chance to really bond and grow as a team, and to see what you got against some pretty high level teams if you're fortunate enough. So for us, the timing of it is perfect because we have 5 new key players coming into our program with 8 returners, and this is a good chance to blend our group for them, especially our new guys, to see who I am, how we coach, how their teammates play, so that when we get going in November, it doesn't take you 3, 4, 5 games to kind of get acclimated. You've kind of got that under your belt. So we'll play 3 professional teams over there. We'll play 1 in Italy and 2 in Greece. So 3 high-level teams, and we'll see how it goes. As you know, sometimes you go over there, the rule changes and all that. You got to get used to that. You ain't getting any calls, and the game is a little different how it's played. So that's always fun to see the players have to adapt to that.
Yeah, the game is definitely played differently. I had 2 short stints in Europe, and I remember one of my first games when I was in Germany. I think I got called for 5 travels because of the way they call footwork a little bit differently. You have to put the ball has to hit the floor before you pick up your pivot foot. And it took me a number of practices to kind of adjust to that.
Yeah.
When you look at some of those minor details, how do you coach through that with a group? Because obviously you want to win. And so you can't have those kind of turnovers, but you're also mostly looking big picture stuff, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, for me, it's all big picture. There's, like I said, there's some things offensively, defensively we want to get better at that I thought we were poor at. And that's all I'm going to focus on this summer. And when we go over that, that's what we're going to focus on, the travels and those things. We'll get used to that, but are we doing the things that we've worked on for the couple of months leading up there? That'll be our focus. And again, a big part of it too is the bonding piece, making sure that when we come back, we're a much closer group than we were when we went there.
I've heard this from a number of coaches who've done the overseas trips, that the basketball is important, but the bonding, like you just touched on, might be more important. What are some of the things that you guys are hoping to do while you're in Italy and Greece, and what parts of each country are you going to?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the whole itinerary yet, but for example, when we go to Italy, we'll spend time in the Vatican, which will be such a great experience for our program and our guys. In Greece, there's going to be a day where we get on a catamaran, and I think it's this great boat. They've got a bunch of beds and benches, and they're cooking on their music, and you're jumping in the water. So it's a combination of all those things: some fun, some education, a lot of sightseeing. Those types of things. I mean, I know our kids are looking forward to going to the Coliseum. So there's so many things that and experiences that you're going to share that hopefully draws you closer and gives you a better perspective of what you have when you come back.
8 returning players, 5 newcomers. You've got one big player that you have to kind of replace. Eli Scott did so many things for LMU basketball over the last few years. How do you kind of replace the production that you're going to be missing from him?
Well, I think that'll be collectively. Obviously, Eli was a great player for us. You know, he got the ball a lot, especially offensively. He was a very good post-up player, got to the free throw line. And we're going to be different. You know, our team will be much different. I think we're going to be a lot more skilled than we have been, a lot bigger than we have been in terms of size. This is on paper as good a shooting team as we've had since I've been here. You know, so now, you know, I think the ball movement, people movement, that's going to be a little different, you know, where, you know, every night could be a different guy. And that's the hope. Obviously, I haven't been with our group yet, but, you know, we had to improve our size and athleticism. We needed to improve our skill, and we need to improve our shooting. And hopefully those things will help supplement for the loss of Eli.
WCC had a banner year a season ago, 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. Santa Clara and BYU were kind of flirting on the edge. You guys had some struggles, but it was because of injuries, because it was a couple of inopportune pauses due to COVID. When you look at the league last year and then also the outlook for this year, what do you see? Because I see a league that keeps getting better.
Yeah, I think it's getting better. You know, I think people expected to take a step backwards. I don't see that. You know, it's funny now, especially with the portal and transfers, and you can get better quick, and you can get good quick, and you can go from the outhouse to the penthouse, you know, within months. And I think what you're seeing in our league, I think people are recruiting at a high level, and I expect our league to be just as good as it has been, if not better. You know, the coaches continue to get better, the players get better, the recruiting's getting better. I think everything's getting better. And I think last year is kind of a indicator of what the future is going to look like. I don't think that was one-off, you know, having 3 teams. And the margin of error in our league is so small. And you know, so I think the league's going to continue to improve, you know, as we move forward.
With improvement in the league and trying to build the resume of a program, you have to schedule properly, and that's get teams that might be viewed as quad 1 or quad 2 wins or opportunities, so that if you're on the kind of cusp of making a tournament, you can kind of really rely and lean on those. How do you go and your staff go about building your non-conference?
Well, just that, you know, last year we played the hardest schedule that the program had played in 30 years, non-conference wise. I think this year will be pretty much, you know, right back in terms of that same type of schedule. And like you said, there's a formula. You know, you want to try to play as many quad 1s, quad 2 games. You know, you want to stay away from hard quad 3s. And if you're going to do that, you're better off playing quad 4s. So you got to figure that path out. But that being said, there are some teams historically that are quad 4 games that, you know, they're coming off an NCAA tournament that are good. So you got to be smart in who you're scheduling, the style of play when you're playing that team. You know, for example, you know, the one thing for us, we've got to take care of business and win, you know, some of those games that you're supposed to win or have a chance to win. And last year, you know, it just didn't happen. You know, and that started with our first game at home against a really, really good opponent like Chattanooga, you know, which we knew we were going to have to be our best. And, you know, they came here and got us. And, you know, those things, sometimes they set the tone for your season, you know, so you've got to schedule correctly. And then when you do that, you got to take advantage of those opportunities.
You mentioned you're going on a preseason trip overseas, the scheduling factor of finding that mix of teams, balance of recruiting. When you have a recruit on campus, what type of facility upgrades can they expect to see at LMU? Because I know we had talked in the past and you felt like you had some projects that are up in the works that are really going to kind of help your program kind of look next level so you get to the next level.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been a great part. Again, we have not been able to really show our place off. And this was the first time we had a chance to, okay, how are guys gonna react to what we have? When you have 5 scholarships available at this level, I mean, you better have, 20 guys plus that you're recruiting that are good enough, because if you go 1 for 3, you're doing pretty good. And I think we had 7 visits and we got 5 guys. And that speaks to some of the things that have been done here from, our practice facility, our weight room, what's the remodeling of some of the things happening in Gershton, where our guys live is different. Where they live is unbelievable. So those, especially with transfers, they want to know, hey, how many minutes am I playing? Where am I going to live? And who am I living with? Do I have a share a room and all those things? So I think, there's been so many things done here within the last 25, 26 months to improve where our guys live, the facilities, and we've got some other things still in works that, COVID has pushed back some major projects. So hopefully within the next year, that'll be done. So we've got some good things going on from a facility standpoint. And again, where we live, if you can match the facilities with the location and the type of school we have, I believe we got a lot to sell.
When you're looking at an upcoming opponent, what does your eye gravitate to? Is it their defensive principles? So how you could maybe exploit something there? Is it something you want to do defensively against their strengths offensively? How do you watch film?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything. I try to get to the meat and potatoes of things, and there's a company that we use called HDI that helps us, from an analytic standpoint of really trying to find out who somebody is. Because my eye may see one thing and the numbers may see something different. So it's using the eye test and then adding the numbers with that to figure out, okay, what does this team do and what are we willing to live with? And that's the big thing for me. What are we willing to live with in this game? So what are we taking away from them? So our guys have complete clarity. I'll give you an example. Let's just go from a personnel standpoint. You got the guy's a driver or he's a shooter. You got to find one way. How are we playing this guy? So if we're playing him as a driver and we're made closeout short and he makes 4 threes in the game, you know what? We have to live with that a little bit. Obviously, we're going to adjust a little bit, but I don't want to create confusion for our guys. If he's a shooter and all of a sudden he's at the rim and he's made 3 or 4 or 5 shots at the rim, that's something I want to live with. If a team's an elite 3-point shooting team and they beat us with a bunch of non-paint twos because that's the game plan, then we'll live with that. So I think it's what is it that they do? What are the 2 or 3 things they do really well offensively and defensively? How are we going to take that away from them? And what are we willing to live with? And that's kind of how I kind of watch film.
Well, the NBA Finals will already have 2 games when we release this conversation. I personally think the Warriors are going to win, although I'm pulling for the Celtics because I've got a number of friends who are on the coaching staff there. Who's your prediction, Warriors or Celtics?
That's a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Celtics, and not that they're going to have a hard time, obviously, because Golden State put so much pressure on you, especially with scoring the ball. But I think Boston, offensively is talented. And I think, Brown and Tatum are playing at a really high level right now. So I like those guys. I think they're going to find a way to sneak it out. Plus, they've been so great on the road. And in the playoffs, you got to find a way to win on the road. They've been able to do that.
They've taken coaching extremely well with first-year head coach Ime Udoka, and that's something you obviously need your guys for buy-in. How much NBA highlights or philosophies do you try to implement with your guys, knowing that many of them probably have aspirations to play at that level?
I mean, I try to take as much as possible. And obviously there's some things that don't transfer, but, terminology, the spacing from an offensive standpoint in the NBA. And then, a lot of the defensive concepts, I try to steal. And I think those coaches are are elite. And again, like you said, so many of these kids want to play at that level. So it's being able to show them what a pro does, how they function in the NBA, but then stealing some things that, make sense for us. But we use a lot of the NBA stuff here.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time. It's always great to connect. I know I'm looking forward to calling some of the LMU games next season. Get some relaxation, keep getting that program back on track because, I think the league continues to improve, and it's fun to watch teams such as yours play who play kind of positionless and really share the ball and help each other. So thanks again for joining the ISO.
Appreciate it, man.